You wish to know if I am real.
Are you?
I am as real as you are.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Cluckin Cosmos. I am your host Hanus, and today let's float through the cosmos together while I share with you my thoughts on Adam Sandler's new movie, Spaceman. Now, if you're anything like me, you might have wondered to yourself, is the spider real? Now, the spider's name being Hanus, after Adam Sandler's character, Jacob, named him after a 15th century Czech man who is said to have built the Czech Republic's famous astronomical clock in Prague. Something that is but an important memory from Jacob's childhood. Before we can truly decide if Hanus is real or not, there's a few things we have to dive into first. The movie immediately enforces an idea of loneliness after Jacob has a conversation with a young girl from Earth, which then leads to the idea of Jacob being the loneliest man alive. Now, a few sleepless nights go by and Adam Sandler's character believes he is hallucinating this spider, Hanus. Jacob then radios down to Mission Control and tells them that he needs to decontaminate the ship, obviously without telling them what he is seeing, as this acts as a sanity check for the main character. After decontaminating the ship, he is met with the reality that Hanus is still around. He then begins to have an actual conversation with the spider, and Hanus picks up on the fact that Jacob is wondering if he's real or not. And this is very important because Hanus answers the question by telling Jacob, "I am as real as you are," which I will get into in a little bit why that is so important, the way he phrased it. Leading up to this point, it is shown that Adam Sandler's character has been going through a lot of trauma, loneliness, depression, problems with his wife who he's not there for back on Earth because right now this mission is more important to him. So given the trauma that Jacob is going through and the statement made by Hanus saying, "I am as real as you are," one could think that Hanus symbolizes Jacob's trauma. Jacob's trauma is as real as he is, and Hanus saying, "I am as real as you are," is the same as saying, "I am as real as your trauma." And from this point on in the movie, Hanus is there to help Jacob get through his trauma, get to the beginning of it, and help him surpass these problems he's going through. They look at the purple specter of particles, and Hanus tells Jacob that it is the beginning, which then leads to Jacob thinking about how his relationship started with his wife and how things used to be. It is later revealed that Adam Sandler's character is doing this mission to make up for his father's legacy. He won't move on and do what's best for him and his marriage because he's too caught up in what his father's life was. And it is for these reasons that Hanus leaves, because Jacob is selfish and he won't change, and he doesn't want to stick around and try to help somebody who is not going to actively change. Hanus then leaves almost without a trace, which brings us back to our original question. Was Hanus even real? And if you think about it, the conclusion of this film, everything Adam Sandler's character is going through, he will still go through these things whether or not Hanus was real or in his head. The outcome will be the same. Now, with the way they directed this movie, I do believe they left this out for open interpretation. Whatever you want to believe, whether Hanus was real or not, it's completely up to the viewer for you to decide. But if we do want to look at this with any kind of logic, one thing I did leave out for discussion up until this point was that prior to Hanus leaving Adam Sandler's character, he was not able to touch Hanus. Hanus would not allow him to and said he prefer him not touch him. And when Hanus was leaving, Adam Sandler's character then tried to stop Hanus by grabbing him, and Hanus then forced Jacob up against a wall and told him, "I prefer you not touch me." Jacob then goes through a period of working on himself, realizing his problems in his marriage, and that most of those problems were because of himself, because he was so stuck on his father's legacy and couldn't stop being so selfish. Upon realizing these things and upon approaching the purple specter, Hanus returns to Jacob. And the most important thing to note here is that at this point, Jacob can now touch Hanus. Hanus no longer forbids Jacob to touch him. Now, why am I putting so much emphasis on this? Well, if you think about it, Jacob couldn't touch Hanus while he was still dealing with his trauma. And as I said earlier, Hanus seems like he's meant to symbolize Jacob's trauma. And it wasn't until Hanus left and Jacob became whole with himself, had fixed his problems and realized his faults, that he is now whole with his trauma. Meaning he could now touch Hanus because Hanus symbolizes the trauma and emotional damage that he had. Prior to this moment, Jacob was always pushing away his trauma, pushing it down, trying to get rid of it because he didn't want to deal with it head on. It seems like such a coincidence that the second Jacob is able to deal with his trauma and become whole with it, that he is now able to touch Hanus, almost as if the two were linked the entire time. So if you were to ask me my opinion on if Hanus is real or not, I would like to think that Hanus was entirely created by Jacob's imagination and was directly connected to the trauma he was experiencing, and created because he was so lonely in space by himself. Now, could Hanus have been a traveling extraterrestrial life who sensed Jacob's loneliness and depression and wanted to help him? Absolutely. But once again, I do believe they left this out for open interpretation. So what do you believe? Do you think Hanus was real? Or do you think all this was happening inside of Jacob's head? Let me know what you believe down in the comments section. And if you were entertained in any way, shape, or form by this video, please leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you next time on the Cluckin Cosmos. Take care.